Success in farming is all about precision and efficiency, ensuring every seed, every drop of water, every nutrient and treatment counts. Terplex Ag is helping farmers all over Iowa and the Midwest do just that. With precision ag drone technology and support from Terplex, you'll boost your productivity and make timely and informed decisions, all while reducing your costs and increasing your profit. It's time to revolutionize your farming. Harvest the benefits with Terplex Ag. Visit TerplexAg.com.
Welcome to Williams and Blum. It is the 12th of Sunday, and we wish all of you a happy Mother's Day out there, specifically to our own mothers, of course, and your mothers. We have a lot of mothers who are listening. We have a lot of mothers who are watching on the YouTube, and we appreciate all of you so very much. We are presented, as always, by our friends at Mechdyne, the Mechdyne Corporation, right here in the Wild Rose Casino digital studio today, as Blum has a Mother's Day engagement to get to. So, and we also wanted to do a little bit of video here from some comments Jamie Pollard made, and it's frankly just kind of easier to do it remotely, believe it or not, as far as technology goes. So we thank our partners at Mechdyne, MECHDYNE.com, for being such a great supporter of ours here on Williams and Blum. I want to thank a couple other sponsors real quick before we get going. Of course, Kelderman Manufacturing. I was down in Oskaloosa at the Kelderman compound last Monday for the Kyle Petty Charity Ride. What an amazing event. Jeff has done so much for that organization over the years, and it was cool because I got to introduce my buddy Danny from Terplex Ag to Jeff and Mark Steck down there, and I love making those business connections with what we do here at Cyclone Fanatics. So that was cool. I think there could be some synergy with those two businesses with all the stuff that Kelderman's got going on in Oskaloosa. I bring in Brent Blum. That's always fun when we can introduce our advertisers to one another, Blum, and we had a cool deal down there in Oskaloosa last Monday. How are you on this fine Mother's Day Sunday?
I like you're using like big words now, synergy, and like you're a CEO. You're going to be on CNBC next.
Got something going
price
on here.
price
I don't,
optimization.
Yeah, you already went over my head. So
all is good. Nice weekend. It's nice. It feels like summer. Summer is here. And Chris, this is the craziest, quietest 10-day stretch we've had in a long time. And yet it's really not that quiet, but it just feels like we've all taken a deep breath here.
Well, I don't know. It feels like, to me, I appreciated Connor reaching out to me because he was at Connor Ferguson was covering the Tailgate Tour deal for us.
I was there as well.
He reached out to me and he asked a very innocent question. He's just trying to do his job. And like he listened to Jamie Pollard's comments and he was kind of like, shit, is this happening tomorrow? Like, do I need to be ready for like? And I was kind of like, I feel like this is like what's coming is the culmination of everything you and I have been talking about on this show for 5 years, and we don't exactly know what's going to happen. We don't know how it's going to look, but I do know that Jamie Pollard kind of said the quiet part out loud.
Yes,
in a lot of ways on Thursday night as Iowa State started its Tailgate Tour, which I'll say, and I say it every year, I think it's the best thing Iowa State's ever done as far as marketing goes. And you just see it now, like the fruits of the labor from when this thing started. There's so many of these young kids that were, Iowa State touched them in some capacity of one of these tailgate tours, and they either go to Iowa State. It's just a really brilliant deal that they did 20-some years ago. Well, it's also turned into a media event because
it was. I was surprised the amount of media there. I was there Thursday. I was like, holy cow, this is like a press conference.
Well, we don't, not anybody's fault. Like, we just don't have much access in the summer because there's nothing going on. Like, why would, basketball's not going to have many press conferences. Football's not going to have many press conferences. Why would we need to talk to Kevin Dresser or Bill Finley in May? Although I would argue now it's more important than ever because there's just so much going on. Women's basketball obviously had those two big signees last week, 4 in total. Pollard, and I wasn't there. Our staff was there. Jacqueline and Rob, but they were all in attendance. And, I start getting a lot of text messages about what Pollard had to say. Let's just listen to it, and then we'll give some reaction.
You just have to look at the evolution. It isn't the SEC and Big Ten. It's those that have all the gold make all the rules, right? So if I was a member of the Big Ten or the SEC, I'd start looking over my shoulder and wondering when's the day going to come when the top of the SEC is not going to want the bottom of the SEC. I mean, go back and look at times when the AFL and the NFL merged, they only needed one commissioner. And when the ABA and the NBA merged, they only needed one commissioner. There's going to come a day they don't need two $6 million a year commissioners, and they're going to eat their own. And if we think that's not going to happen, you're a fool, because we didn't think the Pac-12 would get eaten, and it did. And the CFP is just another example of our industry running amok, and they're trying to swallow the ACC and the Big 12. And I wish them all the best, because they're going to eat their own.
So you think the Big Ten and SEC do not exist separately at some point? Is that what you're saying, I guess, in terms of how you phrase it with the commissioners?
I'm just saying, from an evolution standpoint, if you'd asked me 2 years ago, is the Pac-12 going to be existent in 2025? I think all of us would have said yes. So you don't have to look back very far to see what's happened, and you can see what's happening. And so it's reasonable to project into the future and say, why wouldn't you think that will just continue, that those with the gold will make the rules?
All right, so there you go. That was Jamie Pollard on Thursday at the Tailgate Tour. And I mean, frankly, I completely agree with him. That's got to be my stance for a long time on this. Is like, when does relegation take place? Because right now there's all this stuff in place that you can't kick Rutgers out of the Big Ten, and that's just the one we kind of use because it was such a stretch when they added them. But like, if you're Vanderbilt, right? Like, and this is another reason why I think the ACC is going to implode sooner rather than later, because it's not Florida State, it's not Clemson, it's Pitt, Louisville. These middling schools that are probably going to get
Wake Forest,
Wake Forest, Duke, that are probably going to get screwed in the future, and they know it, so they're going to try and find a last. And that's why I think it's going to be like the Big Ten, the SEC, and then I think you're going to have some iteration of like a combination of the Big 12 and the ACC that exists as that like third conference that's kind of like your mid-major in college football. That's I think I don't know. I'm glad Jamie said all that. I think he's 100% right. And the thing again, it's Brent. These are television properties. They don't care about your academics anymore. They don't care about your tailgating atmosphere. None of that matters. It's all about eyeballs. And I mean, I go a million different directions here, but what did you think about what Jamie had to say?
Yeah, I mean, I got, multiple kind of responses after people heard that. There was a lot of thank goodness for Jamie Pollard, sticking up for everybody here. And that was kind of my first takeaway, C-Dub, was Jamie Pollard's 59 years old. I would guess he has 10 years or less left in this industry. And so he's kind of in I'm going to say what I think's going on. I don't care about my future, which is kind of refreshing, honestly.
It's great.
Because there's so many people in this industry now that are just looking out for survival, where at least Jamie's in that position of that, I don't give a crap mode. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't give a crap, but we all get to a point in our careers where it's like, he could retire tomorrow and he'd be fine. But he still is sticking it out, because who else is going to speak truth to that power right now? Because like he said, the people with the gold are controlling everything, AKA TV is. And I think what Jamie was saying there that really struck me was, hey, the Greg Sankey, you're not exactly safe. You're making your $6 million now, and you want to continue making that $6 million. Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner, you're making your $6 million, but ultimately we'll do one commissioner who's going to make $10 million, and then one of you is out. You know, and same with those other smaller schools that are just kind of weighing down. It's inevitable. And it strikes me that despite these two conferences that have all of the resources possible, they are still terrified of each other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of. I mean, I hate to make this really weird analogy, but I've been like you watching that Cold War documentary,
I
and
love
it's
it.
like the Big Ten and the SEC are the
The old
Soviet Union
Soviet.
and the United States. It's
I,
like
I was
they're
I was
both
thinking the same.
terrified that
Yeah.
they keep on building up, building up, building up. And it's like, what are we doing here? Like at some point, like talk and figure this out. You don't need to
Well,
keep stockpiling resources.
well, and then you think back to how Texas and Oklahoma left the Big 12, right? It was all done in the dark,
Yeah,
very
everyone's
secretive,
terrified. Yeah.
and I mean, when is there going to be like a coup between, Ohio State, Michigan? We're going to get the 8 best brands.
It's gonna happen.
Well, and
I mean, it's
again, like
just if we've gone this far, Chris, we just destroyed a conference, and it's like nobody really even blinked. If you don't,
no,
if you can destroy a conference like that, and it's the Pac-12 is literally gone, which is still it's going to be hard to believe when the
I
football
hate
season
it.
starts.
I
Yeah,
know it was like a good thing for the Big 12, but I despise
yeah.
what. Like
So
I was looking at the preseason top 25 projections.
it's crazy. It's
It's
like
so stupid. Like
it's three and a
Oregon,
half conferences. Yeah.
I hate it.
So if they
I
can
hate
do
it.
that, there's nothing stopping. Like Jamie said, it's the thing is run amok right now. Everyone is thinking for themselves, and we've kind of been talking about this all along. What really convinced me that there was nobody standing up for logic was the COVID year, because when those conferences went on their own and they didn't care about anybody else, it was like, okay, nobody can step in here. There is zero czar of common sense. It's gone. There's no logic in college athletics anymore. And if you keep bowing down to TV and money, TV and money are going to win.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they don't. Again, ESPN does not care about the Wake Forests of the world. We
No,
can
they
argue all
don't.
we want about this is going to hurt the product. It is, but in the ESPN and Fox's world, they would rather have a 35 team mini NFL than have a 120 team college football, because it's less mouths to feed, and they're going to get people are going to say, "Well, we won't watch." The problem is you might not, but enough people will that it's worth it for TV. And so until somebody stands up, and thank goodness Jamie did, it's just we can stick our head in the sand and just wait for the inevitable or try and fight it. And at least he's trying to fight it. And will it matter? I don't know. I don't know if it will. I mean, ultimately, this thing is going down this path, and nobody's been able to stop it so far. So I'm not exactly optimistic that this will really do anything. But at least you got to try before the cart gets way too far ahead. And I think for Iowa State, it was the college football playoff, along with these other Big 12 schools, was kind of the straws. Like, all right, when is this going to end? Because you guys, this is 100% true. Once Iowa State starts paying players, which will be in the next couple of years, and now you have the bath you're taking because you added 4 schools, and now you're getting less in college football playoff money.
And you're
Iowa
getting
State's
sued.
and you're getting sued. Iowa State's looking at I don't know the exact number, but Chris, you're looking at probably $30 to $40 million than where you thought you would have been 18 months ago. And that you can't just, I don't care how good of an accountant you are, you can't just make that up.
Well, it's another reason too. I mean, listen, I know Pollard's polarizing. Okay, I get it. There's a handful of you out there that it doesn't matter what this guy says. You can't stand him because he doesn't sell beer and the way he talks. A lot of people don't, and it's fine. You can have your opinions. And I think they should sell beer in the stadium too, for what it's worth. Okay, like
I
we
agree.
can all have our opinions
I agree.
on this.
Yep.
What I'm saying is, like, this is one of the reasons. Like, Jamie saw this coming. I mean, I remember he called me. We were talking. We talk a lot working on this book, and like he was in Wisconsin. They were scouting out. This was right around the pandemic. I don't know exactly what it was after it. After like everything, like all hell broke loose, and I asked him about Town. I was like, "Does this destroy it? Like, this pandemic?" And he's like, "We need it now more than ever because we've got to have this extra form of revenue. This this was 4 years ago, 3 years ago, when he was just kind of looking into this crystal ball, like seeing all this, right? Like we appreciate all the boosters, but you guys don't give enough. Like there's not enough super rich people compared to the SEC. It's just a fact. That's what Iowa State is. Fan base isn't big enough. We don't have doctors and lawyers. We don't have oil guys. You all know it. It's a very blue-collar fan base. As you've learned, trying to run this collective deal. It's great that they've gotten up to the season tickets where they are, and it's awesome. And it's really helped push Iowa State into a new stratosphere. But it's still, like when you compare it to others, it's still fairly small. Across the board. So, like, he was trying, like, a long time ago to get this thing going to add revenue, to find ways to add revenue. And, I mean, I wish it was going this year, right?
Yeah, and then I don't know if you've been paying attention, but there's been a few editorials in the paper recently from local Ames residents who aren't for Sci-Town all of a sudden.
I know.
And it's just come on, what do we, like, wake up, people.
In my challenge to these Ames people, and I've read them all, and they all have good points. These are clearly smart people who are sitting at their computers and writing these letters. But what in the hell would Ames be without Iowa State?
And what would Iowa State be without? In my opinion, this is why I'm in this world. I am a big believer that athletics is the best marketing.
You're right.
Part of, and so that's why, honestly, Chris, that's why. Some of the people that took on this challenge of NIL is if you fall behind in NIL, then maybe your athletics department falls in the whole universe and then, the whole area. So it's like
these people,
they're so short-sighted.
The anti-Sci-Town people, again, they're not dumb. Like you read their writing and you're like, oh, that's a good point. We are not like, take our families. Okay. We live 30 minutes south of Ames. If athletics don't exist, are we going to spend the same amount of time and money in Ames going to CY Stevens as we do at Hilton? And hell no. You people need to wake up. Your town will die. Your town, as you know it, will die if Iowa State is not playing high level. Your town will die. Because, frankly, and I know, and I'm going to get backlash from a lot of Ames people, but, your Main Street's not very good, right? Like, the restaurant scene is just a ton of chains. Right, there's not a lot of reasons to go there if it's not for and the university will exist, and you know what else will happen if they're not playing high level athletics? Your tuition, you're going to lose money from that because there's not going to be as high of enrollment. It's just a fact. I
would guess a lot of people listening to this went to Iowa State in part because they had a high end Big 12 athletics program.
I wouldn't have gone there if they didn't have sports.
I'm the same boat. So, and then that's such it's all.
It's not exactly Harvard, right?
Right,
it's not like these kids growing up. It's not Jesse Spano from Saved by the Bell wanting to get into Stanford. I've got to get into Iowa State.
And don't get me wrong, Iowa State will still serve a purpose in its mission of being a land grant and
get a lot of farmers,
regardless of athletics.
Absolutely, engineers.
But you won't have 31,000 students if you're and you know what, Chris? Maybe this whole college athletics thing it's going in an interesting area. The great thing here is, and again, I want to be an optimist. Is Iowa State is set up from a coach's standpoint, from a culture standpoint, everything's going really well right now. And I think that's why Jamie is voicing it now. I mean, it's a lot easier for Oregon State to be pissed because they're done now. You need to raise a stink now. You got to fight it now because if the cart gets too far away from you, there's nothing you can say, and you end up like Oregon State and Washington State over in the wherever they're going to be.
It's the same thing. It reminds me a little bit too. This whole conversation we had a couple weeks ago about football and the importance of football here. And my whole thing is we all love basketball, we all love wrestling, but if your football program sucks and is not making it, you're so screwed going forward.
Yep.
You have to be good in football. You have to be. Iowa State in the new era going forward more than ever has to be putting 60,000 people in that stadium.
Yes.
And if the product sucks,
they're
not going to. So you have to be competitive in NIL. You just have to.
And
because
that's the
then
problem.
you're not going to be able to do it in basketball if you're not in
Correct.
football. I promise. Like, this
Correct.
isn't Duke. This isn't Kansas. As much as we want it to be, it's not.
Yep. And so here's what's going to happen. Iowa State's probably going to have to raise ticket prices, may have to raise donation levels again, and it's going to upset people.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to have to do it. I mean, you are taking it. You have new expenses or a loss of revenue or whatever you want to magnify it as, $30 to $40 million that you still, and it's not like you can just give everybody a half, a pay cut of 50%. I mean, that's not going to work. So you got to get creative here. But yes, you're right. Football brings in 85% of the revenue. You got to continue to be good there. And I think Iowa State's got so many good things going for it. And this is why it can be frustrating looking at the noise, because it's like, I would argue this is the best time ever for Iowa State athletics. And yet you look 10 years in the horizon, you go, well, what is this even going to look like? So it's just kind of that the double-edged sword right now.
Hey, I have an idea. Everybody should put their money, move their business over to Colin Newell. He saved me $1,000 this year.
There you go.
Colin Newell, Farm Bureau Financial Services. And then you could just give that money to We Will to pay the players. That would be a nice, hefty chunk of change.
Hey, we're still in the membership drive, Chris. We're halfway there. So we've got 100 members so far that have signed up in May. We're trying to get to 200 to get $200,000, which obviously would really help right now.
Very, very cool. Farm Bureau Financial Services, Colin Newell. Give him, just Google Colin Newell, 1L, Farm Bureau Financial Services. Give him a chance to save you some money, and he gives a donation to the We Will Collective for every quote that he gives out via the Cyclone Fanatic podcast. So thank you to Colin for that. Want to do this. So talking about donations, and to me, like, this was just a slap in the face of, God, this is such a different era of college athletics. When we were cutting our teeth in this business, it was all about facilities. Everything was about facilities. I remember Gene Chizik opening up that indoor practice facility for spring football. We're like, holy shit!
That was McCarney. It was open.
McCarney open. Are you sure about that?
Yeah, I am.
You're
Pretty
right.
sure. Pretty sure.
Yeah, because I remember Tom Crochelle cornering me because you reported on John Davis's injury.
That's right. That's right.
And Dan McCarney reamed my ass because
right outside the Bergstrom indoor.
Yep, I'll never forget that. That was my first time ever having a confrontation with a coach in this business.
Did he call you a slap dick? That was a go-to Mac. Or maybe he called me a slap dick.
He's called me a lot of things over the years. Mac and I have that old, or we had that like crazy uncle who you were kind of scared of relationship.
Now, yeah.
I'm pretty sure he did that to me. I need to ask him. I think he did that to me because he was trying to like have power over me, because I think he was intimidated not by me but by the internet. He's like, what in the hell are these messages?
What's going on here?
We got to keep these slap dicks under control. These Williams and Blum, right?
Yeah.
I would have said,
hey, if I was in the same boat, I was like, I would do the same thing to us.
Oh yeah,
what were we doing?
Freaking kids,
these
they don't know what they're
losers,
doing. He
doing?
knew we were idiots.
Yeah.
Like he's
So-
not dumb.
So this is pretty cool. Actually, we're doing a Cyclone football alumni outing in June up in Ames. We're getting all eras back together. It's partly to help the collective, but Coach Mac's coming
Nice.
back for that. So he'll be
Very
in
cool.
town in June. It'll be quite windy that day.
Well, so this was another headline that came out of Pollard's press conference, or whatever we're calling it, about this wrestling facility that everybody was so excited about that is now being put on hold.
The new wrestling facility is put on hold. It's been postponed. We've told the donors that. Coach Dresser knows that. We've communicated it. We made that decision 3 weeks ago. There's just no way possible to go forward and convince the state that we can take bonds out to pay for a wrestling facility when the college football playoff decided to take all the money and give it to the Big Ten and the SEC. And with this lawsuit getting ready to be settled, you can't go forward with projects like that. That's the same reason we didn't go forward with Hill. You just can't bond for them.
Yeah, I heard rumblings a couple weeks ago that this was going to be a thing, and it certainly has become one. And again, like, so I have a problem, Brent. I can't just react to what he said. Like, my mind goes 10 years down the road with these things. This is tough. Like in this new landscape, the sport of wrestling is in a really bad spot. Just not necessarily at Iowa State. I'm not being a doomsayer.
No.
I'm not.
No.
Yeah, I don't think Iowa State's going to cut wrestling or anything like that. But you look at it around, like, if there's
Iowa
going
State,
to be
Iowa State will never cut wrestling. It's just, what does wrestling look like as college athletics 10 years from now?
Well, yeah, like, I mean, I look at, like, Northern Iowa, right? Like, and I don't think they will either. It's a proud program, but, like, they're in the Big 12 in wrestling, and God, like, they just named a new athletic director. Is there a worse job in the state than that one right now? Like, I guess my point is, like, 15 years ago, it's facilities, got to have more facilities, and now it's, yeah, we'd love to have that facility, but we've got this lawsuit pending, and my response to this would be, at some point, don't bite my head off, people. Just hear me out. Going back to our conversation about the importance of athletic departments in these communities, is there governmental subsidizing coming
Maybe
to save some of these programs?
Well, interesting point, because here's what's going to happen. And this is a credit to Pollard. There aren't many ADs that are as fiscally responsible as he is.
Correct.
So what you're going to see at a lot of places, they are going to continue to spend, like it's the 2008 housing bubble, and there's still no checks on it because we'll just figure it out later. And then the money's not going to be there. And then what? You're going to have major issues from universities having to bail out athletic programs.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, hey, if you've paid attention to higher education in the last 10 years, not real healthy there either. From to get totally in the weeds, we are approaching an enrollment cliff in America. The birth rate dropped a bunch about 16 years ago during the bubble crash.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out. Check out the birth rate. What does that mean? It means when those 18 and 19-year-olds aren't going to be the same amount. And so these schools can't continue to have the number of students. It's already dropped. I mean, Iowa State student enrollment has dropped 5,000 in the last 8 years, 6,000. It's not going back up because there's not enough college eligible students to get there. And so all that means, I mean, these universities are going to be hemorrhaging money as well. And again, your public universities are going to be okay, but look at the funding from the state of Iowa for Iowa State University over the last decade. I believe, and again, this is not political, it's just facts. I believe the state of Iowa is spending about the exact same as it did in 2009 as far as dollars to Iowa State. And that percentage has dropped precipitously because tuitions had to go up to replace that. Everyone rails on tuition going up. It's like, well, yes, is there some bloat in universities? Probably. But the biggest reason is because the costs from the state has gone down. The reimbursement from the state has gone down. All that said, yes, Chris, we're going to run into a point, and I bet it happens in the next couple of years, where there will have to be some bailouts via the state government for some of these universities to continue to operate. And then the athletics program will be part of that. Or what you're seeing, and it's crazy, but it's the truth, like this thing in Vegas, there's this NIL tournament in Vegas in November. 8 basketball teams are going to Vegas, subsidized by literally a private investment fund out of the Middle East. Like that, we're talking about like private equity, like live golf stuff.
Saudi money.
Yeah. That's there. I mean, are we really going down that path? I mean, I guess.
Well, I tell you that I don't trust anybody in college athletics to not take it.
Yeah. They need
the
money.
Saudis came to Brett Yormark and said, "Hey, we'll give you $200 million. We just need this, this, and this." Do you think he wouldn't listen?
I don't know. I mean, that's where,
God,
again, we are, as somebody said to me the other day, and I thought it was a really good point. We are in the middle of the intersection where there's going to be a monster car crash, and we just don't know it yet. And, Iowa State's philosophy is let's Let's be 2 intersections behind and let the car crash happen. We'll figure it out. So this is why it's smart by Jamie, in my opinion, is hold off, be as conservative as you can in spending, because those that are reckless, and they will continue to be reckless, will be literally belly up, and they're going to need bailouts, and it could get real ugly. Yeah, you're right. That's a great point, and I think it's only a matter of time, because you can't
again,
keep fighting. You can't keep spending the money that these schools are spending unless you're one of maybe 12 athletics programs, and those 12 will be fine. But who else is going to be around?
yeah, and I again, and then we bring it back to like, what does Ames look like? What does Manhattan, Kansas look like if Kansas State football isn't a thing? You know, these Big 12 towns in particular are rural for, Stillwater, like, Lubbock.
Yep,
These aren't
Lubbock's a big
cities.
town, but it's in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, but my point is, like, for tourism and,
Yep. Morgantown.
when you hear Lubbock, Texas, what do you think of? You think of Texas Tech University. You think, yeah, Morgantown's a great example. There's just not a lot else in these communities, and you just. My point is, while it will make a lot of people cringe, our tax dollars shouldn't go to fund football programs. Well, not if they're run like they have been for the last 15 years. Yeah, your tax dollars shouldn't go to pay Nick Saban's $10 million salary. I'll meet you there, but I would say there's some sort of it's a necessity to keep business going.
It's interesting. Yeah. It really would be, in my
Tell
opinion.
That to the hotels, if you've invested in a hotel in Ames or a restaurant. If Iowa State football and basketball isn't going to exist, go tell your congressman that. Does
the state want its sales tax and property tax? Yes. What makes that more valuable when people are actually going to those places? Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right. Now, good luck in this atmosphere to get that figured out.
Yeah, I'm glad it's not my job.
But I agree. I think, investing. I'm a big proponent of investing in higher education for so many reasons, and it's gotten very political for, again, reasons I don't want to get into. But yeah, good luck trying to figure that out. But I agree. I do think it's a small investment for a much bigger piece down the road, and there's going to be some schools and universities that are going to run into it here in the next couple of years. Just watch.
I want to thank our friends at the Ivy College of Business, and congrats to Dean Spalding. He announced his retirement is incoming. Did you see that?
No, what?
Yeah, Google it real quick. Matty Van Winkle sent me a link the other day. It's not immediately. He's got a little bit of time.
Yeah, here we go. 2025. Ah, well, man, what a legend. Congratulations, David. You're the best.
Take Mr. Spalding out for dinner and thank him for all of the encouragement and belief he's had in Cyclone Fanatic and what we do.
He's got another year left, summer of 2025.
Been a guest on the podcast multiple times. We really appreciate him. And some of those future business leaders at the Ivy College of Business will maybe get us out of this mess.
You know what's interesting? Again, back to my higher education rant. Actually, the College of Business is, I believe it's the only college that has grown in the last 4 years.
Well, it's because of us.
But
tell people
it's a good education to get, especially in uncertain times.
I tell every kid that asks me, like, what maybe even if they want to get into journalism, I always tell them get a business degree. Like, you can get a journalism degree too. Like, I'm not against that. There's a lot of good things that we learned at Greenlee, but I would get a business degree with it.
Yep, I would say so. Man, I thank you for sharing that. We'll have to go see Dean Spalding, but he has been one of those folks at Iowa State that have really, really helped in so many ways that a lot of people don't even realize. And you need people like him fighting the good fight. Grateful for Spalding, grateful for Pollard, and then honestly grateful for Fennelly, Otzelberg. I mean, all these big timers that could have left for other places, but chose to fight the good fight in Ames.
Last but certainly not least, as we thank our sponsors on the program, the Iowa State University Foundation. You can go to movewhatmatters.com, and this is always a good thing for me to do. brings me back down to earth when we can give to some of these organizations and schools that really need it, that they don't have huge donor bases like athletics. And you can, it's always amazing to me when I do give, Brent, like how pinpoint you can do it. Oh, I want to give to the the kids who are the mascot. Right? Like you can do any of that, like the Spirit Squad, anything like that. MoveWhatMatters.com.
But to that point, Chris, there's less and less public funding for education. So if you want Iowa State to continue to thrive, honestly, if you have the means, supporting the foundation is as important as it ever has been.
This has been kind of a bad doomsday.
It's
episode.
not. Well, it's. So here's what I would say. I mean, I think there's the horizon, but the good news is you don't want to just bury your head in the sand and then let the avalanche happen. It's like you can fight it now. I truly believe that Iowa State has never been in a better spot to be competitive in the short term than this upcoming year. And you could argue Iowa State's in a golden era for athletics right now. And a lot of the stuff is out of their control. So when it's out of your control, what's the old adage? Control what you can control what you can control. And so what can you do in the short term? This is the optimistic part.
Mm-hmm.
Keep supporting it while you can. Go to games, travel. The NIL guys says support. Have fun. Enjoy it. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, what is athletics all about? Is community and getting together, and that will never change. College football, college athletics is never going away. It's just somebody's got to fight the people with the gold, as Jamie said. And I'm glad somebody said something, because for so long in this industry, everyone's terrified of each other, and nobody speaks out until it's too late. And so you got to get more than just one AD doing it, though. You know, I mean, look at how the soccer in England stopped that Super League. It was all these. It was everybody's.
But that's why I've said for years, like, I don't think that'll ever happen here.
I don't think because the problem is
they're much more about the greater of the whole than we are.
That's fair, because again, like you talk to the
Iowa fans are going to step up and be like, "Hey, we really need to preserve this."
Exactly. No, that's the problem. You got it. Or you talk to somebody from Georgia, they're not going to go, "Oh, sorry, Big 12." They're going, "Oh, boo-hoo." I saw a lot of that, of the people reacting to the Pollard thing, and they were doing the crying stuff. It's like, guys, you want your own little 15-team Super League? Have fun. I mean, that's what it's got to be. The TV and the people with the gold are not going to stop. They're going to try and keep accumulating more unless there is some sort of outreach from everybody. And I agree with you. I don't know if that can happen in this country right now.
I don't think it'll happen. I think the one thing that would happen, my prediction would be, is that, and you kind of touched on this in our first segment where you said, I know people say they're not going to watch, but enough of you will. And you're probably right. Enough of you will watch to make that a very profitable venture for those schools and the TV partners. I would say for how long, though?
Yep.
And the reason, like, I heard you and Woody on Sunday, and thanks to Jeff for filling in for me last week while I was racing. My thing would be, like, in business, it's like it's always better to under-promise and over-deliver. And to me, that screams like a huge over-promise thing. Like, we're going to be the next NFL. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And college football is already regional enough of a sport. Like, man, you are really, really – I can tell you, like, I would watch, but not nearly to the extent that I do now. Like, I am the guy who – I still watch a Nebraska game because it's regional, right? Like I'm an old school. I just don't think this new generation will. Like, yeah, they'll
Probably
watch
not.
LSU, Alabama, but are they going to watch Florida State, Clemson? I don't. If Iowa State's in a different division, and you just do that like all over the country, I would guess that this is a deal where they would go in and promise X amount of viewers, and it's this huge TV contract, and they're all going to get rich, and then they're not going to live up to it. That would be my guess.
But the problem, Chris, is once that happens, and I agree with you, I think that's ultimately the end scenario. The damage has already been done.
Correct.
You can't get it back.
And the thing is, let's say that does happen. I believe Iowa State and whatever this big is still going to be on their level, right?
Yeah,
I truly
totally.
do. I
Yeah.
don't think this is like, oh, it's going to be FCS now. I think a lot of those FCS programs will die, for what it's worth. I guess my point is like there's still going to be money out there to be made. Like you're telling me, like
For sure.
Amazon or
Right.
Fox and ESPN, there's still a product here. They don't want to go from having, just throwing a number out there, 25 games on a weekend to 10.
True.
Like they're still going to spend money on this stuff. So
Yep.
again, I don't see this as like Armageddon. It's just we're going to have to stomach whatever these idiots in the suits come up with, and I just don't have any faith that it'll be any good.
Yeah, no, there's the glass half full. Is Iowa State's still going to have a seat at the table? It's just that seat is going to be outsized because this SEC and the Big Ten, they're going to want 5 guaranteed playoff spots each, and the Big 12 will only get 1. So yes, there's still going to be a path forward. This isn't going to be like some of those mid majors right now who have no chance to win a championship. Iowa State still has a chance to win a championship. And it could be, and I would argue it may be as more fun as ever this year without Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And
totally
all these
agree.
things. It's just going to be hard because I don't think the grade's going to stop. And so, the problem is if you get a really good coach or a really good player, unless there's caps in place, it's going to be hard to keep them. But I say that we've done okay so far, and it's already been difficult. So, that's why I'm really excited about what the future of Iowa State football. And again, actually some good news to getting the receiver, Eli Green from the portal on Friday. And you should see some of the offers he got just to back to the point of, Iowa State's still doing okay in this world. Here are the offers for Eli Green: USC, Louisville, Cincinnati, A&M, Houston, Iowa, Iowa State, Michigan State, Minnesota, Arizona, Pittsburgh. So pretty good programs there that Iowa State beat for him. So I think you're still competitive as long as you have Matt Campbell in place and TJ Altsberger in place and Bill Fenley, Kevin Drescher, yada, yada, yada. You'll still be competitive. It's just the resources are going to continue to be spread out to only a specific amount of schools. And that doesn't guarantee they're going to win, but it does make it easier to find a coach.
That's true. All right. I'm sorry for this. We'll be much more jovial on Wednesday's show. I promise. Yeah, we didn't really anticipate going down all this path, but like I think that we're gonna go back to your mailbags too, assuming nothing happens between now and Wednesday. We'll get back to that.
Well,
I didn't see Pollard saying all this stuff on Thursday night when I promised that for this show.
Well, and we had similar thoughts during the COVID nonsense, and Iowa State got out of there and is doing great. So this is where you trust your leadership to figure it out. And the more of us that can speak out about, rather than just say, oh, it's inevitable. Let's do something about it. And that's what we're trying to expose right now.
All right. Appreciate you, Blum. He's got to get to a Mother's Day deal. I know it's a shorter show, but we'll be back on Wednesday kicking it with Jeff and Grant coming up as well. Those guys are doing great with that program. We appreciate all of you. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there who are consuming the product, even if it's on Monday. Hope you had a great Sunday. For Brent Blum, my name is Chris Williams. We'll be back next Wednesday and next Sunday night here on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network.